Hey there, everyone. This is Samuel Johnson, and welcome back to the Ben 10 Retrospectives. And before I talk about this episode, I'd like to apologize in advance for how I'm going to be sounding throughout this video, and there might be some occasions where I wince or cough. I'm currently sick. I got something at the beginning of the week, and I haven't gotten over it. It's just every day it's either gone up or down. It's currently down, but I'm just trying to rest up and have it go away. But so I'm gonna sound nasally throughout all this, and my throat hurts right now, and whenever I swallow, I might wince because of the pain. But otherwise, the rest of the vlog should be unaffected. So again, apologize in advance. But anyway, today let's talk about episode 49 of Classic Ben 10 / the final episode of Classic Ben 10 according to the DVDs, which if you actually watched the show live, you know that's a load. Ben 10 versus Negative 10 Part 2. And in this episode and sorry. And before we go back to talk about this episode, let's briefly go back over the first part. In the last part, the Tennysons picked up the grandson of one of Max's old plumber buddies named Cooper, who they were gonna drive him home because they were gonna pick him up from summer camp and drop him back at his house. But while they were doing that, Max picked up a security footage of the circus freaks breaking into Fort Knox. But when they went to investigate, not only did they find that the circus freaks didn't steal any of the gold in Fort Knox, but they were able to find a secret plumber base, and they stole something from it. They didn't know what, but Max is wondering how they were able to find this place in the first place. As such, they get another alert saying that the plumber base in Seattle is being attacked. They go there, and it turns out that several of their other villains are there causing trouble, including Clancy, Charmcaster, Rojo, and Dr. Animo. The Tennysons get into a fight with them, but they manage to steal something else that looks like a key, and Max realizes what they're doing. And when they get away, Max runs around Mount Rushmore and explains that these keys are needed to gain access to the extremely powerful source of energy called sub-energy, which is supposed to be 20 times more powerful than the sun. However, when they get there, they're confronted by the Forever King, who is the be-all and-all leader of the Forever Knights, his right-hand Robo Ninja, and pretty much all these villains, and pretty much a team known as pretty much being the team called the Negative 10, pretty much made up of some of the Tennysons' worst baddies and a few obscure ones. So this episode picks up right there as the Negative 10 attacks the Rust Bucket, but Max puts up defenses. They manage to get inside anyway, but it turns out the Tennysons managed to sneak away in all the confusion, leaving a bomb that was able to knock back the Negative 10. But it only lasted for so long, as the Forever King's ninja is able to stop the Tennysons and Cooper, which results in Cooper running away with Gwen following. But Ben fights the ninja as well as the rest of the Negative 10, and meanwhile Max follows Gwen and Cooper, and he says that if they want to stand a chance of surviving. Sorry, that was my dog. If they want to stand even a chance of surviving against the Negative 10, they need to get into the plumber base. There's a secret hatch outside. They need to find and locate it. Cooper says that he can help them out. And as I mentioned in the last vlog, we see that Cooper is very technically skilled. He was able to turn the rocket booster on the Rust Bucket into a super rocket booster. He was able to get a forklift working, and on top of that, and it turns out that his technical skill with machines is more than just a regular skill. It turns out he's a technopath, as he's able to communicate with the plumber-based machinery, open up the latch so that Max, Gwen, and himself can go inside. They manage to get. Meanwhile, as they go in there, Ben is still fighting off the Negative 10, but the Omnitrix times out before he can do any more. But Max is able to activate defenses so that they're blown away, so he can get inside as well. After they ensure that that tunnel is not usable, the Forever King looks into a security camera and pretty much says nothing will stop this little homecoming and destroys the camera. To which Max thinks he recognizes the voice, and so he pulls up a log of an old plumber. It turns out that the Forever King is an ex-plumber, a plumber by the name of Driscoll, who in Max's rookie days was a veteran, but it turns out that any alien criminals he had been fighting, he had been stealing their technology and using for himself. And when the plumbers found out about this, they kicked him out. And so Max realizes that after leaving the plumbers, he joined the Forever Knights and worked his way up through them until he became their leader. As such, because he's an ex-plumber, he knows everything about this plumber base, including the sub-energy, which I'll admittedly, that might be a plot hole later, which I'll talk about when I'm done summarizing. But it's a maybe. So of course they have to try and board up any entrances they can into the plumber base. But Max knows it's gonna be a futile effort since Driscoll knows this base like the back of his hand. But they get all this stuff together, and They make all these security drones. Cooper's able to activate this old exosuit, which amplifies the user's strength by 100 times. And so, the Tennysons are pretty confident, but the -10 gets in anyway. They think they can fight them off, and they even getting the security drones ready. But it turns out that just before the security drones attack the 10, they go attack the 10. They turn towards the Tennysons and start shooting them. The Tennysons are able to disable them, and they run away into the place where the sub-energy is, even disabling the bridge so that the -10 can't use that. But upon entering the room of the sub-energy chamber, it turns out Cooper winds up bringing the exosuit to life and attacks Ben. It turns out that while they were outside, Sublimino, because he's a member of the -10, was able to get to Cooper, and as such, he put a post-it suggestion in his mind to attack the Tennysons when the Forever King gave their order. Though it does raise a question on how they knew he had superpowers, because to them he was probably just a kid with good technical skills. Sorry, I'm getting out of breath. I'm really tired. This flu, it's not fun being sick. Hold on a sec. Sorry about that. Sickness, losing breath, can only breathe out my mouth at the moment. Well, I can breathe out my nose, but that just hit me. I just felt exhausted for a second. I needed to take a break. I apologize in advance for this. So if this happens again, don't be surprised. But anyway, as I was talking about, it turns out Cooper's been affected by them. Which again, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense because I didn't mention this. Anyway, so they managed to subdue Cooper because the force field surrounding the sub-energy requires use of goggles that use sound output so that you can even see it. And so they put those goggles on Cooper and turn up the volume, and it messes with his powers, causing him to pass out and the robot to be disabled. They put him away because at this point he can be a threat to them. So the Tennysons all get souped up. Gwen gets her spells already. Max gets into the exosuit, and Ben goes alien. And this is the first TV appearance of an alien that we got in a movie, Eye Guy. And I will talk about Eye Guy for this episode because, technically speaking, I'm not gonna be looking at his actual first appearance, which I'll be explaining next week. But for now, so the -10 get in, and so all the Tennysons all get into a fight with each other. It gets into a fit. They're all just doing all their best. Gwen's locked in a magic duel with Charmcaster. Ben's using his eyes to just take out various bad guys. He freezes Clancy. He blasts Animo. Max is getting into fist fights. But through all this, the Forever King is going to the sub-energy with the keys. Max tries cutting him off, but they knock him aside, and so they manage to get the sub-energy, and after they get it, the Forever King leaves, and at that point, the Omnitrix times out, so Ben isn't as well equipped. He does get a laser, so he's not completely defenseless, but Otherwise, the Tennysons are not going to be. It's obvious the Tennysons. By the time the Tennysons defeat the -10, or if they defeat them at all, Driscoll will be long gone. So the Tennysons manage to distract the villains by exploiting something that they all have in common. There he goes. As without the Forever King, they think, well, who would be the next leader? Obviously, it's Animo, but then Charmcaster is the most magically gifted, which in turn causes infighting among all of them. And so while they're distracted, Ben goes out, manages to grab a bigger gun on his way out. So when the Forever King is outside, Ben destroys the limo with the laser, and so the Forever King pretty much just fed up with Ben, even though I don't know. Even I guess he doesn't like failure in his ranks. I don't know. He absorbs a sub-energy into his armor and causes an avalanche that almost crushes Ben. But Ben managed to go up Chuck at the last minute and is able to, and after he manages to subdue the ninja by consuming his energy ninja stars and destroying him. And so he goes to face the Forever King, but the Forever King power is still great, so Ben is able to consume the sub-energy from his chest plate, and he pretty much uses it to, I honestly assume he annihilated him. Because we never see him in any of the future series. I don't think he's ever insinuated again. In fact, I think in other series there are new Forever Kings. So I'm just assuming that Ben straight out murdered the man. I honestly believe that. But anyway, the sub-energy is gone, the Forever King's defeated, and the -10 was trapped in the same force field that the sub-energy had been kept in, and so the Tennysons get Cooper back up, Subliminal supposedly not suggested now gone from his mind. They drop him back off at his house, which leads to the end of a subplot ends to the ticket subplot as Ben and Gwen look at Cooper and say, okay, which one of us gets the ticket? And Cooper pretty much pulls a very trollish move as he says there was never a ticket. He just assumed that unless he had something that they wanted, they wouldn't have talked to him. So, and that's pretty much how the episode ends. Yeah. So, anyway, my thoughts on the 2-part finale. I think it's good. Despite the lack of build-up, I think what makes Ben 10 versus -10 work is just seeing all these villains coming together and just kind of working off of each other. And while all of them by themselves can be considered great threats, or minor threats in some cases, all of them together with all their strengths coming together and doing what they do best, and it really does feel like a bit something. But it really does feel like the odds are stacked a little higher. On top of that, we get some more. Well, actually, no, we don't. But we get some more history. We get some more Max's backstory. We get some more Max's plumber history, which is nice. Again, of course, the action is nice, and pretty much this entire episode is a giant climax, as the Tennysons are constantly having to cut off the -10, slow down their progress before they get to the sub-energy. It's pretty much them having to keep preparing and raising their own defenses. And even the ultimate conclusion where Ben consumes the sub-energy and destroys the Forever King really is a pretty epic finale, especially considering that I'm not a big fan of Upchuck. But it's not perfect, I will openly admit. I think my first problem is the Cooper subplot. Now, I'm not saying I don't like Cooper. I like Cooper. I think he's a good character. He can be a bit of a smart mouth. But he's also very useful. He's gifted with machines, and just the fact that he has these technopathic powers actually is something nice. Though they don't offer an explanation for how he has them until Alien Force, kinda, sorta. I don't know if they say. I don't know if they say Cooper's powers are like that. I don't know, but my biggest problem with that is the ticket subplot. It serves no purpose to the plot except just to have Ben and Gwen argue over something, and it doesn't really add anything for Cooper except just to say, ha, fooled you in the end. Which, yeah, is not that big a payoff. It doesn't serve any plot. It's just there, so I don't know. It's just there. And I also mentioned the plot hole about how they knew Cooper had superpowers, because to them he might have just been a random kid, so that's not really something much. And then, this is a minor plot. This might not be a plot hole at all, but in the first part, Max mentioned that the plumbers got the sub energy for capturing an alien criminal, and then the alien race that the criminal belonged to, as a show of gratitude, gave them the sub energy. Okay, I get that. But from the flashbacks you see, it looks like Max is still a young man. Yeah, man. He does. I don't know if he's. And Max says that Driscoll was kicked out of the plumbers in disgrace when he was still a rookie. So this might not be a plot hole because they never actually say when the plumbers got the sub energy. So they might have gotten it before Driscoll got kicked out, but it's just that from the way the flashbacks look, it looks like Max is well on his way to becoming a professional plumber. So I don't know. Again, it might not even be a plot hole. Maybe they did get the sub energy before Driscoll got kicked out, but it doesn't take away from the story. It's honestly, I think again, the biggest strength is just seeing all these villains come together, to see the Tennysons fight as hard as they can to take them down, beat them. It really is nice. I think what's even nice is seeing the Tennysons getting into their respective strengths. Gwen kind of reaching her maximum with her, well, not her maximum, but at least getting higher in their magic so that she's at least a somewhat of a match for Charmcaster. Max being able to utilize more of his plumber technology. Ben, well, I guess you can say Ben gets to go a little bit more all out, but otherwise, I don't know. Maybe he hasn't really changed that much, but otherwise, there is still fun action with him in these alien forms. Speaking of his aliens, let's talk about Eye Guy. Because this was his first TV appearance, and like I said, I'm not going to be looking at his actual real first appearance. So I like Eye Guy. I think he's a nice alien. I like the design because his Eye Guy's design is that his head as his name implies, his entire body is covered with eyes. He has a pair of slacks with the Omnitrix as his belt buckle, but his entire upper body, back, shoulders, arms, chest, back is covered in eyes. With his head having only a mouth and two giant ears, no eyes up there, just that. And what makes it cool is that because the eyes are all over his body, they're more versatile. They can shoot lasers, and what makes them also cool is that they can merge together and produce different effects. Like during the battle with the -10, Ben is about to be confronted by Clancy. He tries sneaking up on him, but then three eyes on Ben's shoulder fuse together and create an ice beam that freezes Clancy. It's actually and it is creative. There was even in his first appearance, Eye Guy was able to merge all his eyes into one singular eye on his chest that could shot out one giant energy blast, and it's really cool. And I think Eye Guy I think is a creative alien. I think Eye Guy is a very creative alien. Just his scenarios, I think he can actually be used very often. He's not used at all. He's not really used that much because, again, he only appears twice in the original series, and again, we're not going to be looking at his first appearance. Okay, I'm just being a dead horse at this point, but otherwise, I feel like he could have been used more often because he is a cool alien. So I can't really think of much else to say. I think the Ben 10 versus -10 is a good special, good season finale. I like seeing these villains come together. I like the action. I like how high the stakes are. I like seeing these characters doing best of what they do, and even the finale is really nice. There are some flaws, but they don't really get in the way of anything. So they're nothing really that big to scoff at. So on the whole, it's a good special, and if you want to watch it, go ahead. So yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for putting up with me being sick. And tune next time where I will hopefully be better, as while we're done with the show, we still have 3 movies to look at. And so tune in next week as we look at the very first Ben 10 movie, Ben 10: Secret of the Omnitrix.